Hi,
Hi.
another Mirror Moons. And today I think
Hmm.
we want to share and express, um, and also to do a parts work integration on two parts. One is I can, and the other I can't. And so, um, recognizing and knowing the energy of the I can and I can't within the self.
Mhm.
Um, um,
Mhm. And
and
how we all contain like both.
mhm,
If you have, yeah, we all have the black and white, the yes and
mhm,
no. Um, but sometimes because of your conditioning, you're more identified with one side
versus the other.
versus the other.
Yeah.
And how self-awareness is really about how you come to know that you contain both.
Yeah.
You are both too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more you're just identified with one, the more you're going to experience conflict.
Mhm. Bec-
Yeah.
Because you could
Uh-huh.
also see it as like if you have two children
Mhm.
and if one is a yes and a one is a no, let's just say, like one always says yes and one always says no, and like you like the child that always says yes to you,
Yeah.
then basically, yeah, you like basically favor the one with the yes, right? And
Yeah.
not so much the no.
Mhm.
And the no child feels it and knows that like you're favoring this other sibling more than, this child. It's like the same thing within our inner selves. Like
Mhm.
we all have polarities, we all have opposites, we all experience opposites of
Mhm.
being like, and I love what you said, yes and no. Like we all experience like siding with the yes and siding with the no within our decisions and
Yeah.
what we want and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
and so it is kind of like that. We have the yes and no within us, and they're opposites. We all have opposites to all of our emotions. And it is your free will to choose. And I think what we are familiar with is like we all tend to choose one or the other, like you said, black or white. But
Mhm.
we're not so good at recognizing both and utilizing both to help us benefit in whatever experience we're having in that moment.
Mhm.
Because we're so used to saying, this is better than this, or
Mhm.
this is better than this.
Yeah. And like an example of the parent with the two children, right? The yes child, you could say that's the golden child.
Mm-hmm.
No child is the black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're basically shunning the black sheep, what it's doing is you're actually the black sheep is a mirror to the things you've rejected in yourself. And
Yeah.
when they're saying no to you, it causes a negative emotional response. Like you maybe the parent feels invalidated, feels like you're not doing a very good job, or it
Oh, it cut off
actually
when you said
oh yeah.
you're not doing a good job.
Yeah, and it's bringing up maybe insecure feelings within the parent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A feeling of like, oh, you don't listen to me. So maybe it's bringing up very buried old feelings of not being respected, not
Yeah.
mattering, which is actually, oh, oh, sorry, I just
No, no, go ahead.
got a
Go ahead. I
flashback
love
to a
it.
dream last night, a
Oh, okay.
download. It's
Okay.
connected, okay?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so in that moment, in that negative circumstance, the parent's relationship with the black sheep child, it feels negative, but in on another level, this child is the one that's reflecting the healing that the parent is still needing to go through
Yeah.
to integrate exactly those feelings of worthlessness, not being respected, not being heard, feeling like they don't matter,
Mhm.
you know, which existed there even before the child. The child
Yeah.
was born in a way now embodying the very things that the parent disowned. So
Mhm.
it's an opportunity
Oh wait, can I
to
can
integrate
I
that. Yeah.
can I also add into what you just said? So the mom is the neutral in this
Yeah.
yes and no within the self. So
Yeah.
mom is the neutral. These two children of a yes and no is the internal self of its being. And what
Mhm.
the mom is basically doing in this scenario is like, I side with the yes part of me, not the no
Mhm.
part of me. And
Mhm.
so because it's so dominant in siding with the yes side of the child, which is also within themselves,
Mhm.
that she has no idea that it's also creating disrespect. All the stuff that she doesn't like, she's also creating that within herself by just siding with the yes too. Because
Mhm.
the shadow, the black sheep, the one that is the no child, right? That is not really favored, is basically a reflection of, isn't that how you feel? Isn't that how you feel when you favor the other child more than this one, than me?
Mhm.
And that shadow is basically saying, Mom, you also have this in yourself. You
Mhm.
also have this in yourself.
Yeah.
But if that neutral part, which is the parent, is
Mhm.
not willing to see the opposite, then it's just going to continue this dynamic where
Mhm.
you're only siding with one part versus the
Mhm.
other.
Mhm. And that's basically the inner war.
Mm-hmm. Which is reflected in the physical outer world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which
yeah,
is basically the whole energetics of war in general, right? Like
yep,
I win, you lose.
yes,
I
yes,
have to win because only one polarity can win because it's the good right side.
yes, yeah,
Oh my God, you know, all those things like being on the right side of history.
yeah,
And although, yes, we want to be good people,
mm-hmm.
but when you're using that goodness to split off from and completely
Mm-hmm.
demonize the other side, you've
Mm-hmm.
just become the demon yourself.
Yes, yep, yep,
But
yeah,
thinking you're like, you know, in your holy garb saying, see, look, I'm so
yeah,
good and I'm so right and I'm so righteous. But you've just, this is what we say, like the light can be just as violent as the
mm-hmm.
darkness
Mm-hmm.
when you use your position as a state of superiority
Yeah.
because you're not actually understanding the other side and the value that it holds.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
then when you really look at the vulnerability of that yes side of like, no, this is good, this is right, this is what I
Yeah.
choose. When you look at the vulnerability of that light, I guess,
Yeah.
or that perspective is um it really bulldozed with that energy. It utilized that energy to bulldoze all the way in life because the deepest fear, the vulnerability in that is I'm so scared to recognize that I am the opposite and only the opposite.
Oh, you mean I'm so scared to recognize that I am the black sheep too, deep down.
Deep down inside. And it's so
Yeah.
scared to have that be the dominant conscious
Yeah.
feeling state.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right. Because its trauma was to also experience itself possibly being the black sheep and being rejected.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's why it really favored being everything that's
Yes.
not
The
the
opposite.
black sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
And you just like put all your energy into energizing that you're not that. Yeah,
Yeah.
to become the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so my dream last night
Yes.
was, well, okay,
Oh.
just a series of really kind of like uncomfortable situations, like just series of misfortune. Like I'm at this place, just the energy is like things not going right. You know, I'm
Okay.
looking for someone, I can't find him. Then I go to another place and I'm lost and I'm like wandering around this city I don't know and I forgot my address home and like all these things that were not going right.
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard this message come through in that was saying to me, um, like what you perceive as bad on one level, on another level is something good.
Mm. So true.
Yeah. And like, so my dream self heard that and was just suddenly in this moment of, so okay, like
Yeah.
it was just grappling with all these dimensional truths, like on the physical dimension of like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can get lost. There's polarity, I missing something and no. But then somewhere there's a positivity to it that I wasn't seeing, that I wasn't recognizing yet. And
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what the good
Mhm.
thing was because I was so in my reality where
Yeah.
I can lose things and I'm lost and no. But it was just this like wisdom coming through that what you think is bad is also good
Mhm.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Whoa,
it's
that's
just
a
a
powerful
simple,
dream. Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I love that dream. It's so true.
And if you think about it, a lot of times what you perceive as, how many times in life something that you perceive as, oh my God, the misfortune of this.
Hmm.
But then that leads you to somehow, because that happened, that leads you on a path that leads to something good,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like say you're like really sick
Yeah.
and that's something bad. But then because you got sick, you start really like researching and getting really curious and trying to find
Hmm.
pieces to yourself. And then you
Yeah.
have this whole big self-awareness discovery.
Hmm.
And so you're in a much different, more aware place than you would have been if you hadn't gotten sick. You would
Hmm.
be living a completely
Yeah.
different life. And
Yeah.
maybe now you live in a different city and you have a completely different lifestyle, and that's much more well suited for you
Hmm.
than your previous life.
Oh,
So yeah,
love how
what
you
you think is
exemplify that.
bad
Yeah.
is not the full story.
Yeah. It's not. No.
And that's the same thing with like good child and bad
Hmm.
child.
There's equally goodness in there, and
Mhm,
equally there's like negativity in that too. And you
mhm,
could, and to be aware of all of that on both ends, and to
mhm,
really know both ends really well, the polarities of everything, the opposites of everything,
yeah.
you really know how to utilize it in a way that is so beneficial to your own self journey and what you
Mhm,
want to experience and what you desire and what you want.
mhm,
Where now nobody's against each other, everyone is on board and wanting to help
mhm,
manifest that.
mhm.
Yeah. Yay. Okay, I like where we're going with this. So then
Mhm,
today, um, well, this the theme of this week, I just feel like is also kind of like the collective of like, yeah, um, like this polarity that's been jumping out of the I can and I can't. And my
Oh yeah,
mom,
can you share about your family? Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
really interesting.
So my mom has this like physical ailment with blood pressure. She has high blood
Mhm,
pressure. And it's really interesting that every time it like books her ticket and is about to fly out back home because she lives on the other side, um, she gets high blood pressure and she has to cancel her flight. It has happened every time, like every time. And this time around, when she came to visit, she had a dream of her mother who has passed on. And she came into the dream this time and said, I'm going to go with you to New York. And so, and in that dream, my grandma was like, okay, what should I pack so that I can go with you? And my mom was like helping her pack and stuff like that. And on her flight, she didn't want to miss it, but she was experiencing high blood pressure again, even
mhm,
after she took her medication. And for the first time in my mom's life ever, She has never, even when my grandma was alive, my mom has never asked her for help of any kind. Even in all of her struggles, she never asked. And for the first time in her life, and my mom's like 60, well over 60, she asked in the plane ride. Oh, and my mom said, I don't even know why, but in her plane ride, she remembered the dream. And she just out of the whim, like remembered it and thought, if this is true, um, I asked my mom, and she like called in her mom and asked her, like, can you help me get to New York safely? And she was flying out with my older sister too. And my older sister didn't know what my mom was experiencing, but she didn't want anyone to worry. So, and then she got to New York safely. But then I'm aware of like spirits and, some spirits that have passed on. I've interacted with a few here and there. But when she was here staying, she also experienced high blood pressure again. She had to cancel her flight this past Monday. And then she rebooked it for today, but we canceled it again because her high blood pressure was going up again too. But the thing is, my grandma, I knew she has been around because she's been messing with the lights in the house where she would flicker on and off on, no one touching it. And she just really blasts it like on and then turns it off whenever she wants and then blinks if she wants, makes it blink if she wants and all of that. And I know it's my grandma because she came to me and revealed some things. And it's so trippy because she came to me while I was going to sleep and she explained to me saying like thank you because in my ancestral line she passed down um um the feminine I can. Like I passed down this to all the women in my line after me, which is even if you're feminine, you can do it. And and she told me she lived with that belief, that one-sided belief of I can all like throughout her life. But her blind spot, which she told me was I was so just in that mindset, she couldn't see anything else. And she couldn't see that she didn't receive the connection and the love from her husband, her children, because she totally closed and shut down the feminine nurture side of her. And she only activated the masculinity inside of her as a feminine, saying, a woman can do it too. I can do it too.
Okay. So it's this very masculine, she developed her
Mhm.
masculine, but then she didn't know how to
Yeah.
be in the receiving,
Yes.
right?
End of it at all.
It was all like,
Uh-huh.
I can
Just
exert.
I can. And so she never got to experience and receive like this. And even if she was receiving this, like, because my mom was so that to her of like this devoted daughter of like loving her and caring for her, she kept pushing it away. Like, no, 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 don't do that. Don't worry about me. I can do it. I can do it.
I
Like,
can do it.
uh-huh. And so
Mhm.
she just didn't know how to receive. So then what happened was she passed on, never really experiencing
Wow.
that side because it was a blind spot. But
Mhm.
she came to me that night and said, thank you. I see the work that you're doing. And it was emotional because it was like, I see that you're rebalancing the gift that I passed down to the women in my line, in my family line. And it was, I see that it is good to have that belief, but she also saw the downside of you can't just run with that and only that because I see how it can hurt.
Mhm.
And so, and she goes,
Mhm.
I basically am here to help you, to help your mom, and basically your family.
Mhm.
And she gave me a kiss on the forehead, and I just thought, oh, like thanks, grandma. Like I really feel seen and heard. And so I kind of got to know my grandma through her telling me. And then, ironically, that day was the day where I gave my mom an integration, and it was on that. It was naturally on the I can and the I can't. And she had a huge aha. And she realized she was really clinging on to the I can too. Because my mom, as my grandma's daughter, she decided to take on that energy like narrow-mindedly too. Just that. And shut down the opposite part of her. So when I showed her the I can't, she had a huge aha. But then after that huge aha, and now in her physical, she couldn't really adjust to make that shift in the physical. She was having all this aha of this awareness of, oh my God, I see that when you are doing dishes or when you're cooking, my body just automatically goes and wants to be like, okay, let me help. What do you need help with? I want to help. And like, that thing. And she told me it was really hard for her to just sit and receive and to watch. And so I told her that is your practice. Like it's so automated within you. You have to now, like your challenge, which is just to sit and watch, and to retire that energy. Um, so overall, like all of this happened, but then my mom, like 2 nights ago, I was in there and I was talking to her about something else, and then we ended up talking about my grandma. And then my mom just naturally tells me about how my grandma lived. And I said, "Oh my God." Like, and then I told her my experience I had with grandma that night when her spirit came to tell me about that awareness of being strong and only living that one-sided belief. My mom just helped me connect the dots and she had no idea. And that's when I revealed to her, like, oh, grandma came to me and we already revealed that. And here you are validating that for me. And you had no idea that I had this experience with her the other night. And I don't know, it was a loving connection overall of that awareness of like, oh, well, I mean, and it's stuff that you and I already know, but it was just nice to like get confirmation again of like, oh, everyone has these polarized things. Even when I showed my mom the I can't, she was so like, oh my God, oh my God. But it is right because my mom, where she grew that was my mom had physical ailment at a really young age and it made her bedridden and she couldn't move out of bed. She had to lay on one side of her bed, one side of her body for 2 years, under the age of 15. And she had this ailment since like 3 years old, all the way to 22. But the worst time of her life was around that age, like 8, 9, 10, like I don't know, somewhere around there. And so as a kid, that's when she really got this idea of I can't do anything. I can't move. I can't get up. I'm different. Everyone else looks normal. They can do it. I can't. And she couldn't help but to feel the I can't all day, every day as her dominant self. And she hated it basically. And she hated it. And as soon as she got better, she really like um basically dumped that part of her life and said, I hate it. I don't want to be this. And then adopted the I can't. And all her life was from that. And she was afraid of this. Yeah. But then the interesting is clients this week, exactly on that same thing of the I can't. And it was the same feeling state. So it is like everyone's root, you end up having your own personal experience of it, but the energy of the I can, they all enter the same room with the same feeling states. So everybody's root of like the sadness, the anger. So even when and you and I already know this, but I'm just explaining it for those who may not know, is like when you see even the integrations that we do on mirror moons, if you really see this as you, like oneness, this is also like you're also healing and awakening this part within yourself too. Like this is also part of your healing. it's not separate, it's the same. Yeah. So, and I think that's why we are discussing how we want to show this integration today. And for whoever sees it as like, this is me, like genuinely, like, oh my God, it's me. Like you just had your healing through just watching this. Yeah. Yeah. Or like another awakening, another layer of awakening. Yeah. And I don't know if there's anything else, but yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Wow.
And this the
So
yeah.
so the how this was really passed down, the survival skill of I can,
Mm-hmm.
identifying with the I can,
Mm-hmm.
but only identifying with that side left out the other part of you
Fully
that
bulldoze the I can't.
fully bulldoze I can't. And therefore, when you bulldoze something and you even deny that it exists, there's no way for that part to get what it needs.
Yeah.
So it's been starving. It doesn't have, and I see that when something feels like it can't, what it's meaning is that it's needing to receive something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because the formative experience was like your mom, she was bedridden and she didn't have the support she needed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made her abandon it too.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that, oh my God, that was in the integration too. You're so right. Oh my God, you're so right. Because in there, she wasn't receiving the support at all. Everyone
Yeah.
was basically like feeling sorry for her, making her look
Yeah.
like, oh, poor you.
Yeah.
Like,
Just a burden.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's basically she saw
No,
nothing good about her situation in
yep,
the I can't
yep,
because there was everyone shunned her. So she
yeah,
shunned that part of herself too.
yeah, yeah. And she told me my grandpa was the only one that kind of gave her a taste of that support, but it also came with such sadness.
Mm.
And my mom didn't want to be the burden to someone that cared for her. So like my grandpa was the one that showed that affection, but she felt like, oh my God, like I don't want to be that burden to my father. So even when she was hurting, she would be so strong of like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. Like, don't worry about me. I'm okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't want you to worry about me. But which amplified the internal self of, I don't like me. I hate me. I'm only troublesome to other people. And yeah, so much there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But you're so right. It is exactly that. And that part was like, so what broke my mom's thing was exactly what you said. My mom asked this part of her, of the ICAT, such a loving, caring question. And in that moment, it cried. It's like, I never had anyone ask me that like they care. And that was when it,
Wait, what question?
um, I forget what question, like my mom and I don't even remember anymore. But there was this one specific question where
Yeah.
she asked, but it didn't matter what the question was. The energy behind that question was such a loving, caring way of like,
Wait, you asked her or she asked you?
she asked me because I took on her I can't part. So she was
Oh.
asking herself. So, but then that part felt that loving, genuine question of like, you're concerned for me. Like, I don't know, but that broke the wall down. And that's when that part of her got into this vulnerable part to really gush out like the deeper inner truths. Because in the surface, it was all about that I can't part was so not liking my mom's conscious I can. Because it was like, um, it's all about you. Like you do things all right, and I know I can't. And it was really hard because you can't keep me feeling like I can't. And you are always the one that is like I can.
Mhm.
So this part naturally didn't like the I can.
Mhm.
But then the thing is, the I can in my mom, she had no idea how mean she was to the I can't part.
Mm.
Because, but if you think of it logically, not even going into this, it is so true.
Mhm.
Think
Yeah.
about like in like just as an example, like let's say um you have someone in your life that clings on to you like I can't. Like, Kwonyin, what do I do? I can't. And you're thriving. But this one keeps like calling you every day, like, I can't. It's like it can get annoying. And it's like, dude, like I need some space. You're so clingy with that energy. And it's like, and even the part that can's like, okay, let me show you. But if that part is like, I can't, eventually the I can does get annoyed with the I can't. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
I can't do it for you. You got to see it for
But you know
yourself.
what? Oh, but you know what? Even in that anger,
Mhm.
I feel like it's a positive thing for the I can to get angry and
Mhm.
frustrated, right?
Oh,
Because it's
mhm,
gonna it's gonna that's a trigger, right? Like, God, stop it.
mhm, mhm.
You're so annoying.
This part, that the part that I took on for my mom, that part
Yeah.
it was there. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I hate you. Like, oh, yeah, like,
Like, stop annoying me. But
uh-huh.
then
The other part.
that anger will like bring up, it's gonna like shake up the
Mhm.
energy of the I can, right?
Uh-huh.
Because it
Uh-huh.
got its feathers ruffled,
Yep.
and now it's also feeling vulnerable.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. But then that part was never the I can was never aware of the I can't. So it never was able to do that.
Yeah.
It was vibrating that from a distance.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
my mom's blind spot, because she ran with the I can, her blind spot was not seeing that she couldn't. And if she saw that she couldn't, it really triggered her.
Hmm.
Really triggered her. Yeah.
Okay, so then it's like how, okay, that moment where I can is like, get off of me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
And
then
then
I
this part's
can't.
like, get off of me too. It was both. Yeah.
But then you know what I feel like happens in that space is then the I can't realizes in a weird way that it does have some power,
Yes. Yes.
because it's like, oh wow, I can is like really bothered by
Freaking.
me. It
Yeah.
must mean that I'm not completely worthless, or like, you
Yeah.
know, I have some influence here.
Yeah. But then it
Yeah.
was utilized, but then it wasn't aware that it was, so the I can't also had that awareness of, oh my God, I'm also one-sided. I'm only seeing everything as I can't.
Mhm,
That's why
mhm,
the part of her that was the I can't was like, oh my God, I'm only seeing you as the negative one. You're only hurting me. It was totally the
mhm,
victim. You're only hurting me. You're only hurting me. Every time you say I can and you do it and you
mhm,
master the I can, it's like, and it was only seen from the negative lens of you're hurting me and you're only hurting me. But then the big awakening is like, wait a minute, you are me. And then it was like, wait a minute, if you are me and I know that I can't, but you are me and you can, means I can too. And that was a whole like turning point.
wait, back up, hold on, there's something. Okay, okay, the moment when I just want to like, because I think there's a really important part, like how
Mhm.
that happens, where the um okay, well, something that came through was I feel like when the I can't get so obnoxious,
Uh-huh.
in the I can't, or feels obnoxious,
Hmm.
I feel like somehow it'll trigger the I can
To do more.
to to do more, but also when it gets so angry about the I can't,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to see itself as also negative, because it's now like it brings out the shadows of
Negative.
the I can,
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
because it wants to get violent to the I can't.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So that's why in the
Okay, do you
physical,
see what I mean? Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of like, like
Uh-huh.
stop it. And
Uh-huh.
then it like realizes, oh my God, I'm becoming really aggressive and violent. And I
Uh-huh.
like,
Uh-huh.
and so it starts to see that
Yeah.
I can is not just all positive.
No. Well, if that part is so blinded, it will. It won't see
Okay,
it.
yeah,
It won't see the good. It will only see that they're doing good
yeah,
because
yeah,
the I can is actually right. Like for instance, like the I can is so like it is understanding. It is it does the research. It does have the common sense of, yeah, this is right, right?
yeah,
So it comes from that point of this I can't part is like, yeah, you are right. I get it. But it's like um it ends up being like to the I can't like being violent. Like,
yeah,
gosh, why
violent.
can't you just get it right? Like me.
Yeah.
Why
Why
can't you
can't you
just
just be good like me? Just take
yeah,
the step like
yeah,
me.
yeah. Or just listen to me then at least. If you can't do it, then just
Yeah,
listen to
yeah.
me and everything will be
Uh-huh.
fine. Like
Yeah.
that role. But
Uh-huh.
then that role is the one that's actually being the shadow
Yeah.
because it's being violent.
Uh-huh.
And that's the blind spot. But it's hard for that I can to see that it's actually being the shadow. It's like
Hmm.
it only sees like, no, but I am right. And this part's just not seeing it. I am right. So I have every right to like show this like this.
Hmm.
Huh?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that right
Yeah.
part is like, no,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? I am right. This part is the one that's making me like this. And it still can't see it.
Hmm.
It's shadow
Yeah.
in
Like
the I
I'm not
can't.
a person, but you just made me an angry person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, like I'm not an aggressive person,
Yeah.
but it's your fault. You're
Yeah.
making me,
Yeah.
So what it's doing is the I can't exposes the I can's powerlessness,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is what they both have in common.
Yeah.
I can. At the core,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
their common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we find the common denominator to the split that happened
Mhm. Mhm.
from the original powerless situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Hmm. Yeah.
I love that you
Okay.
thought
And
about
so
that. Yeah.
while the I can, let's say there is the self-awareness to like catch itself, to be like, oh my God, I'm becoming a demon.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm becoming
Yeah.
someone I don't want to be. I'm
Yeah.
becoming bad.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a consciousness awareness shift happening there. That's really important. Like
Mhm.
in that place of feeling weak all of a
Mhm.
sudden,
And that's the wall
like,
breaker
yeah.
for
And
the I
that
can.
vulnerability is a really
Uh-huh.
important portal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because the I can realizes, fuck, I can't with this part. So then
Yeah.
it
No
starts
matter
to have,
what I do,
yeah,
I can't
yeah,
get that part on board with me.
yeah. So then the I can becomes like, I can't, naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so good. Like this is like how many decades of marriage for people to get to this place. Lifetimes. Shit. Okay. And
Oh,
then the I can't, I feel like also has a conscious right shift where it's like, oh, yeah, like I do have power too.
oh my God.
I know. Wait,
Yeah.
what do you think about what's the I can't's like revelation?
Um, well, and it just ends up being like, oh wait, I can't. Oh my God, it shouldn't be something to laugh about, but it is funny. But okay, all seriousness, it does end up being like, oh, I can't. And it like
Mhm.
breaks down the wall. So now that's the open like space of vulnerability where it can now drop in to the I can now
Mm.
recognizing the I can't. So then it really drops down into that state where now it feels doomed. Like, oh, I can't. I really can't. And then it becomes really painful. Oh, so funny. And I feel like I could cry now. But like that I can't now is like in that state of like, oh my God, nothing's gonna work. Like nothing's gonna work. But in that moment of vulnerability of, oh my God, I really hurt you. Like I really hurt my other part. I thought I was only doing good. And then it gets this recognition of I only saw with the lens of being good. And I see how that was actually hurting because I was not aware that I was hurting that part.
Mm.
So now it's recognizing that many years of I was hurting it.
Mm.
And then it feels hopeless now. It's like, you are right. I can't. I can't. So now both parts are, I can't. But then what happens is the I can't recognizes that this I can became genuine. Like I can't.
Mm.
But in that state, it recognized like, because now it's seeing a mirror of itself with this opposite part. And then it has this awareness of like, um, see, now do you understand me? And it's like, yeah, like I can't. And then for the first time, it recognizes, oh, wait, we're both in the I can't. And we both given up. And then the part that was the more the I can't was like, oh, and then it has a breakthrough moment of, oh, I can. The opposite part that was so in that vibration of the I can't for so long ends up being like, I'm so glad. I'm actually seeing the goodness in you now. Because I see that now that we're both down here, we really can. And I see you have been saving my life. You have been there. If it wasn't for you, we would both be in here. So now I see why you had to go off without me. And know that this is proof that you can, that you can. And so the part that is the I can't now sees the goodness of the I can. And then it sees like, oh my God, I too was
Oh,
narrow-minded
and you know what
with
I
the I can.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also when the I can joins the I can't, they're both now in this
Same
shared
level.
feeling.
Hmm.
They're on the same place.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're not in split realities. They're
Hmm.
now in one.
Hmm. And that's when the I can't sees the I can more now.
Yeah.
So then it's like, wait a minute. If we're both down here, we can't. And
Mhm.
then it sees like, oh, so you doing the I can is like, you did it. You did it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to
Mhm.
give up on that. You did it.
Mhm.
And then it has this huge awakening of like, wait, if you are me, I'm the one that gave you the hard time. I'm the one that manifested the I can't in you all your life. But you kept overcoming it. You kept overcoming it. You are my proof that you
That
can.
I can.
And if you can, that means I can. And I feel like I'm impossible with the I can. But I gave you the equal amount of impossibility to you, but you overcame it.
Mhm.
So it was saying, if you overcame the impossibility, that means I can overcome the impossibility. And it was only because of you I saw myself. So then this part was like, if you feel like you can't, don't worry. if you're too hurt, don't worry. You can be you. I'm gonna be your I can now. And when it says I can, it was like saying like, what is it that you want to feel in the I can? And that part will talk. And it's like, oh, that's the feeling state you want to be in the I can. Like, okay. And so for every individual person, that feeling state of I can will look different in the physical. Like it's like, like, oh, I want to retire, or like, oh, I want to go on this vacation, oh, I want to do this. It's going to be a different example in the physical, but the feeling state would be the same. And then it's like, look, like, do you see that I know that I can? And it was telling this part, the I can now, that feels like the I can. It's like, do you see that you can now through me being your mirror? Like, no matter how much you feel like you can't, you're motivating to me now I can. So in the past, you were alone, but now I'm on board with you. What if we're both in the I can? That means that the new spaces, I'm not going to give you a hard time going for the I can. I'm going to be on board with you in the I can. And so that's the integration. Eventually it gets to the point where they both integrate. And then in the
And
next
also, I feel like the I can is also no longer afraid of the I can't part.
Yes.
It's no longer like seeing it as an opponent,
Yeah.
because now it has a deeper understanding of it
Yeah.
as its own self.
Yeah.
So
the
they're
future
both
experience.
like kind of equals now.
Equals.
Yeah, they're both equals.
And so when they fall into the I can, it's like they both understand the I can't, so they have no problem, like feeling into it. And then from that state, getting the motivation to the I can and finding a solution. So it's like wherever
Yeah.
they go together.
Yeah. Right. And also, I think previously when they were in separate places, the reason why the manifestation wasn't going well, even though the I can do it,
Yeah.
it always internally felt kind of like held back
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah.
because like the I can't was pulling on it. So it manifests something good, but it always somewhere feels like, oh, I don't deserve this, or I don't think it's real. Those feelings and thoughts are coming from the I can't.
Yeah.
So it never quite felt like it could really even enjoy what it accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But and that's coming from so another thing with this is that on the planet, everyone's dealing with the issue of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I feel like the core of this loneliness is that we all have this othered part inside of ourselves that's alone in its own, like the I can't part, it's just trapped here, being pushed away by the other dominant part. So when you do this integration work, you're actually healing loneliness.
You're so right.
Because finally, the most other part is now getting understanding and presence, and in the same realm together, it's no longer lonely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Exactly. And so another way of putting it is like, oh yeah, if in the physical there's a stranger or there's an event or there's an happening where it triggers and you don't even know that person, you don't even need to know that person, but whatever that person is saying, whether you read it on the news or in an article or some stranger in front of you triggers you. When they trigger you, a stranger, just instead of like the perspective, eventually through this integration work, it's like, whoa, like, yeah, this guy I so don't, or this woman or this guy, I so don't agree with this person. But what happens is now you catch yourself like, wow, why was I so triggered by this event or this person or this happening? And then it goes to be like, there must be something. And why it's being triggered, because deep down inside, somewhere,
Mhm.
that feeling state that this thing is making you feel, when you feel into that triggered state, there's a shadow in there that wants to communicate, to be like, I want to resolve this, I want to resolve this. So when you, and then after you resolve it, you look at that person or that thing or that event or that happening that triggered you, it will be a thankful moment, like you said in the beginning of our conversation of, like when you're sick and then
Mhm.
you gain all this awareness, and when you look back, you are grateful for that time that you were sick because it got
Yeah.
you to be aware. It's the same thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And so, like,
Yeah.
even recently, we went through that whole COVID pandemic where there were so many splits and everybody was
Mhm.
triggering each other with vaccines or no vaccines and all of that too.
Mhm.
And everyone was like in this like state of triggering each other. But
Mhm.
that moment was a wake up call for all of us to look within the triggers that are occurring within the self, to look within, to heal the shadow,
Mhm.
to be like, oh, thank you, opposite. I now was able to heal this because of you. And then,
Mhm.
like you said, it's carrying the loneliness, but also bridging the gap to end the war within and in the external with each other. Yeah. It's a powerful process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. Do you feel
That
like,
is.
yeah, do you want to go into the integration? Or I don't know,
I
for some
kind of feel like we already did it by
did.
enacting
I think
it.
so too. I think so too, right?
Yeah.
Because Kwonyin, what end did you side with in this area of I can and I can't? I mean, I already know, but
Oh, just in general in my life
yeah, do you want, yeah, so you basically took on more of that dominant energy of the I can, right?
of the I can.
Being more strong.
If
Or
I
did
look,
it flip flop?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think I went back and forth, but I would say, I mean, different phases, I had different things, but in general, I think I took on more of, well, childhood was more I can't, and then my adulthood was more I can.
Oh, mine was the opposite. My childhood was the I can, and then my adulthood became the I can.
Mm.
So it's interesting how we were in the opposite as kids, but
Mhm.
then the uh, that that initial belief that we took on,
Mhm.
because we ran with that, it naturally grew where the opposite became the dominant.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah. So it is very subconscious too how that happens, where
Yeah.
and then you can't really identify with the I can anymore or the I can
Mhm.
if you take on the opposite. It's harder.
Yeah.
But then in life, it's this dance of where you go back and forth with the opposites
Yeah. Right.
without
Certain
really
situations will
recognizing.
bring out more of the I can,
Uh-huh.
and then other places
Yeah,
that I can't.
yeah, yeah. So ending the war with that.
Different people bring out different parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. And
Mhm.
basically, we're ending the war with that, right? Of
Mhm.
just this dance of back and forth without knowing each other.
Right. And I think now I'm seeing a safe, authentic relationship is where you can be both.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can be I can't,
Because you're so
and you
aware
can
of
be
both.
can.
So in
Yeah.
any situation, you're like, oh, this utilizing this is better,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
utilizing this is better.
Yeah, and you have more fluidity between, and I think that's what we need
Oh,
is,
yeah.
more like it's not so rigid. Like, no, I
Hmm.
can't.
Hmm.
I'm not that.
Hmm.
Someone who's like very rigid in what their beliefs are, or I mean, like how they present themselves
Yeah. It's a
is gonna have,
beautiful, cohesive
you
dance.
know, right. And that just
Yeah.
reminds me of something I heard about, like great, like spiritual masters, it's not that they don't feel, they kind of have this image of being this like perfectly peaceful being all the time, or for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
But it appears like that externally, but internally, it's because they learn how to be so fluid and not resistant to their polarities.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't have polarity.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
more like willing and available and open to like moving between
Mm-hmm. Like
the
it's
realms and
okay.
is not in resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is okay. I don't mind. Like Krishnamurti, one of his things was like if he could sum up his whole spiritual practice,
Yeah.
it's that um it's that I don't mind what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh, he's such
That's
a
his greatest teaching.
yeah,
If he could sum up everything.
great
And
thing.
so I feel like this applies to this work with polarity integration is you have to learn how to not mind yourself being the opposite
Mm-hmm.
too.
And fully
You are that.
experiencing it to gain
I
the
am that.
awareness. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But if that if that spiritual teacher ends up suppressing and only showing the peace,
Uh-huh.
oh, it'll come out eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
like just
you
the
can
love and light.
reenact the love and
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the
Mhm.
true dance is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like knowing all polarities and just
Hmm.
being okay with all.
Hmm.
Yeah. Woohoo! And
Wow.
this
I
is
feel like
what
we
this work
covered a
is
lot.
about, right?
We're like
Yeah.
thousands of years of human consciousness evolution getting us
Mm-hmm.
to like
Oh, lost you there. Come back.
oh, okay. Okay, here you are. You just froze for a moment.
Oh my God. I don't think I recorded it, did I?
No, you were. I
Oh,
saw
okay.
the
Okay.
thing, but I think
Okay.
it like stopped, but then we were done anyway. I don't
Okay.
know. I feel like
Okay.
we can just end there without saying goodbye, I think.
Okay.